So let's hit the ground running working in Fusion 360. And before we build anything, we need to start by organizing our work. And to do that, we need to make sure we have our data panel open. And all you need to do to open or close your data panel is click on these 9 squares up here at the top left. And make sure your data panel is open. And the first thing you need to have done is you need to create a project called Engineering Lessons. Now, it is possible that you've already created this, and if so, you just need to open it. So once it's created, go ahead and double click on it to open it. And then I want you to create a folder within your engineering lessons project. And I want you to call this folder Shapes. And hit enter on your keyboard. And the Shapes folder is going to be where we organize all of our work for this unit. And eventually we'll create more folders as we get further along in our lessons. But all of your folders will be stored inside your engineering lessons project. So go ahead and open up your Shapes folder. And let's start building our first document in our Shapes folder. So start by finding this green plus sign up here in your ribbon called Create Sketch. And go ahead and select it. And then if you look, you'll see that 3 squares pop up, these 3 yellow squares. And each one is a different view to work on. This is our front view right here that I'm hovering over right now. This square over here is our side view, and then this square right here is our top view. I want you to find the yellow square in the middle, the one that I'm hovering over right now, right in between my red and my blue lines. That is our front view. I want you to select this face to sketch on, and if you did it right, you should see front on your view cube on the top right of your screen. And once you're in sketch on your front view, I want you to select your 2-point rectangle tool. And all I want you to do is left click with your mouse and let go of the left click and drag your mouse. And you can see this rectangle start to create. And then I want to left click again. And so now I've created a rectangle. Now you'll notice that my rectangle tool is still selected. So if I click again, I will draw another rectangle. And in fact, I kind of don't have a choice. I have to keep sketching rectangles every time I click. To exit the rectangle tool, there's a couple ways to do that. I can right click with my mouse and go to OK or cancel. Or alternatively, if I still have it selected, I can use my keyboard and hit the escape button. And that will also deselect my rectangle tool. Now I only wanted 2 rectangles drawn, so I'm going to undo 2. And how do you undo something? Well, if you go up here into your quick access toolbar above your ribbon, you can find the undo button. Or alternatively, you can use your keyboard, and on your keyboard you can hold Control and then Z, and that will also undo the last thing you did. And if you undo too many times, you can go back and forth between undo and redo. But go ahead and get 2 rectangles drawn. And real quick before we go any further, I want to go over left clicking versus right clicking and the different types of clicking with your mouse. And so hopefully you figured out that left click is select. So if I click on something with a left click, it selects that something. And if I hold left click and drag, I can select many things at once. Versus right click, when you click right click, you can see this little mini menu pops up. And so that's the difference between left click and right click. But what about your scrolling option? Well, go ahead and scroll up with your mouse and down with your mouse. And you can kind of see what happens as you scroll. And if you don't have a mouse and you're working with a laptop, you can go down here and you can find your zoom button. If you click on this zoom button, if I click and drag up and down, you can see it effectively does the same thing. And you can also use 2 fingers to zoom in and out, kind of like how you would on a touchscreen phone on your laptop as well. I'm going to go ahead and hit escape on my keyboard to get out of this tool. And then what I want you to do is click your scroll wheel in. And you can see if I click my scroll wheel in as opposed to scrolling up or down, I can move my screen around. And once again, if you don't have a scroll wheel, if you're not working with a mouse because you're working on a laptop, if you go down here into this little navigation menu, you'll see this hand, this pan button. If I select that and I just left click on my screen now, I can effectively once again do the same thing. And then to exit out of this, I could hit escape on my keyboard or I could right click and hit cancel. And if you ever scroll too far in or too far out, or you leave your shapes and you can't find them, all you have to do is hit the home button on your view cube and then go back to your view that you were sketching in, and it centers everything for you. But from here, I want you to have 2 rectangles sketched with nothing selected. So if you have something still selected, make sure you hit escape on your keyboard to get out. And I want you to just left click on your two rectangles at various corners and see what you can do with them. You can see we created two rectangles that you can change the width and the height. But what if I didn't want this rectangle to be a rectangle? What if I wanted it to be a square? Well, if you look up here, there is no square option. There's a rectangle. If we look below, there's all kinds of options, but there is no exact square. But a square is a type of rectangle, so we can make this rectangle always a square if we want. So make sure you clicked off your square. If you have something selected, just click off on the side of your screen. And then look up here in your constraints. And you can see these two parallel lines going horizontally. This is your equal constraint. And if you hover over it long enough, it'll actually define what the constraint does. I want you to select it and select the right side of this rectangle and the bottom side of this rectangle. And what that does is it makes it a perfect square. And so if I right click and hit cancel, I can move this square around and I can make it bigger and smaller, but you'll notice that it is always a perfect square now because I told its height and its width to be always equal. As compared to this rectangle, which I can change the width and the height on because I haven't told them to be equal. And so that's rectangles and squares. What about other shapes? Let's go ahead and grab our circle tool as well. And all I want you to do is click and let go, drag your mouse and click a second time and draw a circle as well. And then right click and hit cancel to get out of your circle tool. And if you click on the center of your circle, you can see you can move it around. And if you click on the outer edge of your circle, you can see you can change the size. And once you've got all three of these shapes sketched out, I want you to make sure you move them up here to the top left corner above your origin. So let me move them all over here to the top left, above this center point of your document. And once you've got all three moved up to the top left, go ahead and hit Finish Sketch. And then I want you to hit the Home button on your view cube up here. And you can see we have these three 2D shapes from our sketch in a 3D view. And once again, I can zoom in and out on my mouse, or I can go down here to this navigation bar and zoom in and out and hit escape on my keyboard to get out of that. And I can also pan my screen around by using this tool in my navigation bar or by clicking in my scroll wheel if I have a mouse. And once again, if you ever lose these things, all you have to do is hit the Home button and it will automatically recenter whatever you've created in your document. But from here, I want you to go back up to your ribbon, and I want you to go to the feature right next to Create Sketch. Don't click on Create Sketch again. Instead, go to this feature to the right of it called Extrude. I want you to go ahead and select that, and I want you to click on all three of your shapes. And then I want you to just click on the arrow and drag it back. You can drag it forward if you want, but just drag it one direction or the other. And you can see it measures your distance for you as you go. And you could type in the distance if you wanted to. But I want you to make it about 20 or 30 millimeters and then hit OK. And you can see we've now extruded these shapes and made them 3D. And actually, this is a good stopping point for this document. We have a lot more to learn when it comes to extrusions and sketches and views. But we're going to stop this video here. Let's go up to the top left corner right next to Undo and find our Save button. And let's give this document a name. Let's just call it Random Extrusions. And make sure that it's located in your Engineering Lessons projects inside your Shapes folder and hit Save. And if you did it right, inside your Engineering Lessons projects in your Shapes folder, you should see a file called Random Extrusions. And so if you see your file saved in your Shapes folder, then you are done with this video.